Hello, my crafty friends. Well, today we're continuing our study of Job, and we're going to be reading chapters 8 through 12 together. And this starts out when Bildad is giving his his comfort to Job. And he says, Then Bildad the Shuhite answered and said, How long will you say these things, and the words of your mouth be a great wind? Does God pervert justice, or does the Almighty pervert the right? If your children have sinned against him, he has delivered them into the hand of their transgression. If you will seek God and plead with the Almighty for mercy, if you are pure and upright, surely then he will rouse himself for you and restore your rightful habitation. And though your beginning was small, your later days will be great. For inquire, please, of bygone ages, and consider what the fathers have searched out. For we are but of yesterday and know nothing, for our days on the earth are a shadow. Will they not teach you and tell you and utter words of their understanding? Can papyrus grow where there is no marsh? Can reeds flourish where there is no water? While yet in flower and not cut down, they wither before any other plant. Such are the paths of all who forget God. The hope of the godless shall perish. His confidence is severed, and his trust is a spider's web. He leans against his house, but it does not stand. He lays hold of it, but it does not endure. He is a lush plant before the sun, and his shoots spread over his garden. His roots entwine in the stone heap. He looks upon a house of stones. If he is destroyed from his place, then it will deny him, saying, I have never seen you. Behold, this is the joy of his way, and out of the soil others will spring. Behold, God will not reject a blameless man, nor take the hand of evildoers. He will yet fill your mouth with laughter and your lips with shouting. Those who hate you will be clothed with shame, and the tent of the wicked will be no more. Then Job answered, and he said, Truly I know that it is so, but how can a man be in the right before God? If one wished to contend with him, one could not answer him once in 1,000 times. He is wise in heart and mighty in strength. Who has hardened himself against him and succeeded? He who removes mountains, and they know it not, when he overturns them in his anger. Who shakes the earth out of its place, and its pillars tremble? Who commands the sun, and it does not rise? Who seals up the stars? Who alone stretched out the heavens and trampled the waves of the sea? Who made the bear Orion, the Pleiades, and the chambers of the south? Who does great things beyond searching out, and marvelous things beyond number? Behold, he passes me by, and I see him not. He moves on, but I do not perceive him. Behold, he snatches away. Who can turn him back? Who will say to him, What are you doing? God will not turn back his anger. Beneath him bowed the helpers of Rahab. How then can I answer him, choosing my words with him? Though I am in the right, I cannot answer him. I must appeal for mercy to my accuser. If I summoned him and he answered me, I would not believe that he was listening to my voice. For he crushes me with a tempest, and he multiplies my wounds without cause. He will not let me catch my breath, but fills me with bitterness. If it is a contest of strength, behold, he is mighty. If it is a matter of justice, who can summon him? Though I am in the right, my own mouth would condemn me. Though I am blameless, he would prove me perverse. I am blameless. I regard not myself. I loathe my life. It is all one. Therefore I say he destroys both the blameless and the wicked. When disaster brings sudden death, he mocks at the calamity of the innocent. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covers the faces of its judges. If it is not he, then who is it? My days are swifter than a runner. They flee away. They see no good. They go by like skiffs of a reed, like an eagle swooping on the prey. If I say, I will forget my complaint, I will put off my sad face and be of good cheer, I become afraid of all my suffering, for I know you will not hold me innocent. I shall be condemned. Why then do I labor in vain? If I wash myself with snow and cleanse my hands with lye, yet you will plunge me into a pit, and my own clothes will abhor me. For he is not a man as I am, that I might answer him, that we should come to trial together. There is no arbiter between us, who might lay his hands on us both. Let him take his rod away from me, and let not dread of him terrify me. Then I would speak without fear of him, for I am not so in myself. And that's what he's saying to his friends. But now he's got a plea to God. And he says to God, I loathe my life. I will give free utterance to my complaint. I will speak in the bitterness of my soul. I will say to God, do not condemn me. Let me know why you contend against me. Does it seem good to you to oppress and despise the work of your hands, the favor of the designs of favor the designs of the wicked? Have you eyes of flesh? Do you see as a man sees? Are your days as the days of man? Your years as a man's years? That you seek out my iniquity and search for my sin? Although you know I am not guilty, and there is none to deliver out of your hand. Your hands fashioned and made me, and now you have destroyed me altogether. Remember that you have made me like clay, and you will return me to the dust. Did you not pour me out like milk and curdle me like cheese? You clothed me with skin and flesh and knit me together with bones and sinews. You have granted me life and steadfast love, and your care has preserved my spirit. Yet these things you hid in your heart. I know that this was your purpose. If I sin, you watch me, and do not acquit me of my iniquity. If I am guilty, woe to me. If I am in the right, I cannot lift my head, for I am filled with disgrace, and look upon my affliction. And were my head lifted up, you would hunt me like a lion, and again work wonders against me. You renew your witness against me, and increase your vexation towards me. You bring fresh troops against me. Why did you bring me out of the womb? Would that I had died before any eye had seen me, and were it as though I had not been carried from the womb to the grave. Are not my days few? Then cease and leave me alone, that I may find a little cheer before I go. And I shall not return to the land of darkness and deep shadow, the land of gloom like thick darkness, like deep shadow without any order, where there is light as thick as darkness, where light is as thick as darkness. Now this is his description of what he thinks life after death is. It's just nothing. That's what it sounds like, nothingness, darkness and shadow. But he would rather be there than be alive. And that's a terrible place to be in. A terrible place to be in. And then his third comforter speaks out to him, Zophar. Then Zophar the Naamathite, woo, that's a word, okay, answered and said, should a multitude of words go unanswered, and a man full of talk be judged right? Should your babble silence men? When you mock, shall no one shame you? For you say, my doctrine is pure, and I am clean in God's eyes. But oh, that God would speak and open his lips to you, and that he would tell you the secrets of wisdom, for he is manifold in understanding. Know then that God exacts of you less than your guilt deserves. Can you find out the deep things of God? Can you find out the limit of the Almighty? Is it higher than heaven? What can you do? Deeper than Sheol? What can you know? Its measure is longer than the earth, broader than the sea. If he passes through and imprisons and summons the court, who can turn him back? For he knows worthless men. When he sees iniquity, will he not consider it? But a stupid man will get understanding when a wild colt is born a man. If you prepare your heart, you will stretch your hands towards him. If iniquity is in your hand, put it far away. Let not injustice dwell in your tent. Surely then you will lift up your face without blemish, and you will be secure and not fear. You will forget your misery. You will remember it as waters have passed away, and your life will be brighter than the noonday. Its darkness will be like the morning, and you will feel secure, because there is hope. You will look around and take your rest in security. You will lie down, and none will make you afraid, and many will court your favor. But the eyes of the wicked will fail, and all the way of escape will be lost to them, and their hope is to breathe their last. And then Job answered, and he said, no doubt you are the people, and wisdom will die with you. But I have understanding as well as you. I am not inferior to you, who does not know such things as these. Am I a laughingstock to my friends? I who called to God and he answered me, a just and blameless man. Am I a laughingstock? In the thought of one who is at ease, there is contempt for misfortune. It is ready for those whose feet slip. The tents of robbers are at peace, and those who provoke God are secure, who bring their God in their hand. But ask the beasts, and they will teach you, the birds of heavens, and they will tell you, or the bushes of the earth, and they will teach you, and the fish of the sea will declare to you. Who among all these does not know that the hand of the Lord has done this? In his hand is the life of every living thing, and the breath of all mankind. Does not the ear test the words, as the palate tastes food? Wisdom is with the aged, and understanding in length of days. With God are wisdom and might. He has counsel and understanding. If he tears down, none can rebuild. If he shuts a man in, none can open. If he withholds the waters, they dry up. If he sends them out, they overwhelm the land. With him are strength and sound wisdom. The deceived and the deceiver are his. He leads counselors away stripped, and judges he makes fools. He looses the bonds of kings and binds a waistcloth on their hips. He leads priests away stripped and overthrows the mighty. He deprives of speech those who are trusted and takes away the discernment of the elders. He pours contempt on princes and loosens the belt of the strong. He uncovers the deeps out of the darkness and brings deep darkness to light. He makes nations great and he destroys them. He enlarges nations and he leads them away. He takes away understanding from the chiefs of the people of the earth and makes them wander in a trackless waste. They grope in the dark without light, and he makes them stagger like a drunken man. Okay. There's a lot in there. And we're going to read Ray Stedman's discussion on this book, well, parts of it. And then I'm going to give you these questions, and you can write them down and answer them at your leisure. In 1940, C.S. Lewis published his first popular book on Christian doctrine, The Problem of Pain. The book examined the question of why we suffer, yet it did so from a theological and theoretical point of view. The book is aimed at our intellect, not our emotions. Around the time The Problem of Pain was published, Lewis became acquainted with a Christian poet and novelist named Charles Williams. They became good friends, and Lewis invited Williams to join a literary discussion group, the Inklings, which included such authors and scholars as J.R.R. Tolkien, Owen Bartfield, and Hugo Dyson. On one occasion, C.S. Lewis and Charles Williams engaged in a lively discussion of the book of Job. During their talk, Williams pointed out that God permitted Job to boldly, even angrily, question him. Though he did point out to Job that his human understanding was flawed and limited, God never reprimanded Job or punished him for asking tough, painful questions about suffering. Instead, God's displeasure was reserved for Job's so-called comforters, the three people who tried to provide simplistic answers to life's tough questions, the sort of people, Williams added with an accusing stare, who write books on the problem of pain. Williams was joking with Lewis, needling him in a good-natured way, but he was also making a serious point. Suffering is much more than an intellectual problem. It is an experience that engulfs the whole body, mind, and soul of the sufferer. Those who provide neat theoretical and theological answers to the problem of pain are no help to people who suffer. I'm not suggesting that C.S. Lewis was a Job's comforter when he wrote The Problem of Pain. The point of that book was not to comfort people in their sufferings. Rather, it was a Christian defense against the atheist charge, still commonly heard today, that the reality of suffering proves that God doesn't exist. It's an excellent book, and I commend it to you. But 20 years after The Problem of Pain, C.S. Lewis wrote another book, a book filled with painful, angry questions. A book called A Grief Observed. It reads a lot like the book of Job. It opens with intense questioning. It offers no pat answers, and it shows the author moving through a terrible time of pain and loss, with his faith bruised but intact. Lewis wrote A Grief Observed after watching his wife of 3 years, Joy Davidman Lewis, die of bone cancer. A grief observed was so raw and honest in its questioning that Lewis was afraid to publish it under his own name. Instead, he used a pen name, N.W. Clerk. He allowed it to be published under his own name only after a number of well-meaning friends offered him copies of the book, thinking it would help him work through his own grief. It's easy to be a Job's comforter. It's easy to offer simplistic answers to our suffering friends, but it takes courage and honesty to admit that there are no easy answers to the problem of pain. It takes genuine love to stand by people when they're suffering, to simply be present with them instead of offering an empty lot of platitudes or self-righteous accusations about hidden sin. As we come to Job 8, we find Job surrounded by a trio of do-gooders who have no comfort to offer, but plenty of trite sayings. They are intent on forcing Job to confess his sin, though they have no evidence of sin in his life. There are few experiences more difficult for the human spirit to bear than being misunderstood and falsely accused. So after all Job has suffered from the loss of his children, the loss of his health, he now faces the trial of being misjudged and mistreated by those he called friends. In the midst of Job's calamities, these three men get up on their soapboxes. They harangue and blovate and try to force Job into admitting his sin. Their arguments seem logical. God is just. If you suffer, then you must deserve to suffer. Of course, there are many biblical examples of innocent people who suffer injustice. Adam's son Abel, whose offering pleased God, was murdered by his brother Cain, whose offering was rejected by God. Joseph, the son of Jacob, did no harm to his brothers, yet his brothers became jealous of him and threw him in a pit and sold him into slavery. As a slave, Joseph served his Egyptian master faithfully and honestly, yet his master's wife falsely accused him and had him thrown in prison. And then there was Jesus, the most innocent human being who ever lived, and he was falsely accused, beaten and flogged, and then crucified between two thieves. Clearly, even though God is just and loving, the innocent do suffer. This is the way this fallen world works. This is truth that Job's three comforters seem unable to understand. In Job 8, we hear from Bildad the Shuhite, the comforter, who is generally considered to be the most hurtful and least consoling of the three. I call him Bildad the brutal. His discourse is fairly short, and he begins by attempting to break down Job's defenses with logic. Bildad's style is to ask questions that focus on the logic of the argument. He is a cold, intellectual thinker and a hard-nosed debater. His first question is, can God do wrong? Logically, of course, the answer is no, God can't do wrong. After all, our ideas of right and wrong derive from the nature and character of God. Rightness is being like God. Wrongness is being unlike God. So obviously, God can't do wrong. Bildad then proceeds from this basic premise to draw on a logical conclusion for Job. If your children have sinned against God, then he has delivered them over to the consequences of their sin. When your children died, when the tornado blew down the house and killed them all, it must have been just the penalty for some sin they committed against God. Tragedy is God's punishment for sin, especially hidden sin. There is much truth in what Bildad and the other two men say to Job. Bildad reminds Job that the experience of past confirms the fact that God blesses those who turn to him, that he rebukes and punishes those who turn away. All of that is true, but it doesn't apply to Job. His pain is not a punishment for sin. Here Bildad states that God always cuts off those who seem to prosper because of evil. He says, in short, if you don't want to be utterly destroyed, Job, repent of your sin. It's a logical statement supported by experience and the testimony of Scripture. Why then is Bildad considered a miserable comforter? Because Bildad is speaking out of a wrong spirit, and he is leaving out some very important truths. An incomplete truth is often no better than a lie, and that's the case with Bildad's words. There are, in fact, three major problems with the approach Bildad the brutal and the two other friends use. Let's look at each of these problems in turn. First flaw. Bildad and the other two comforters answer Job's words without trying to find out the truth of Job's situation. They zero in on what he says without understanding his agony. Job himself admits that he speaks rashly, but he does so because of his incredible pain and grief. Anyone who has undergone deep, unrelenting pain knows how suffering can grind down the human spirit. When Job speaks out about his pain, his friends should listen to his emotions and understand his torment. Instead, they argue and attack. When people are hurting, they need someone who can identify with their hurt. They need someone to listen and empathize, not criticize. Second flaw. Bildad and his two friends may have had correct theology as far as it went, but it was incomplete. They spoke as if their views were the final word on the subject. They seemed unaware that there might be dimensions to God and his plans that they couldn't even imagine. According to their limited view of life, suffering is always caused by sin. It's true, of course, that sin does have consequences in our lives, but trials are not always the result of sin. Their theology was narrow and incomplete. The third flaw. Job's friends never asked God for help. I think this is the biggest one, because if they had not had this flaw, maybe they would have done better in the other areas. That's just my opinion. The third flaw. Job's three friends never ask God for help in understanding Job's problem. They never pray with Job. They never ask God for open minds and sensitive hearts or an enlightening understanding so that they can truly help their friend. The book of Job is filled with prayers, but they are all prayers of Job, crying out to God in the midst of his suffering. Job's comforters never feel any need for God's help and illumination. What a testimony this is to us of the need to approach our suffering friends with an attitude of humble prayer, always seeking to authentically understand and comfort them in times of hurt and loss. In Job 9 and 10, Job makes his reply to Bildad. He begins by setting forth his dilemma. On the one hand, he says that he is saying that he himself has an inadequate theology just as his friends do. He recognizes that mortal human beings are inherently sinful. In fact, he once believed, as his three comforters believe, that suffering is the result of sin. That was before going through his own trial of pain and loss. He would have, before then, analyzed other people's trials just as they have analyzed his. On the other hand, having searched his own heart, Job can find no unconfessed sin in his life. He has done what God demanded of him. Whenever he became aware of sin in his life, he made offerings to God in repentance, and he accepted God's forgiveness. Even though he has done that, his torment continues. This is Job's dilemma. Since he's not aware of any sin in his life, since he continues to undergo suffering, the problem must not lie with Job. The problem must lie with God. Yet God is perfect, wise, and loving, so the problem cannot lie with God. It's a riddle Job cannot It's a riddle Job cannot solve. It's unsolvable, Job says, because he has no way to examine and debate God. The essence of this passage found in the last two lines, which could be restated, who can force God to explain himself? Who can judge the judge? Here, Job shows why he remains stuck in his dilemma. Though he believes he is blameless, that is, he has repented of sins and they have been forgiven, Job recognizes that no human being is truly sinless. Compared with the righteousness of God, Job's righteousness is filthy rags. Even so, he believes that his affliction is without cause or justification. He longs for an arbitrator, a mediator, to settle this dispute between himself and God. In this anguished prayer, Job turns to God and asks, have you somehow limited your own wisdom so that you see life as a mere mortal does? Have you lost your ability to act as the wise and loving God you once were? Is that why you put me through this? Have you somehow allowed yourself to think and act like a man? I believe these lines contain hints of the incarnation, the great underlying truth of the New Testament, the fact that God did truly limit himself and become a man. What Job is not able to understand is that in the incarnation, God did not lose his wisdom and compassion, as Job suggests here. Of course, God's incarnation happens way after Job, so he doesn't have the benefit of knowing about Jesus like we do. When God became a man in the person of Jesus Christ, he identified with us and put himself in our place. This enabled him to understand our emotions, our weaknesses, and our suffering. Because God fully understands our humanity, humanity, we can trust in his mercy and compassion. As we read through Job's cry to God, we realize that Job gives voice to the anguished arguments that have occurred to suffering saints. Job explores the nuances of affliction, whether mental or physical, to the utmost in his prayers. He asks the questions, describes the dilemmas, and articulates the shades of doubt, fear, hurt, and bitterness that we all express in times of suffering. Are Job's questions answered? Not here, not yet. God remains silent at this point in the book. Oppressed by God's silence, Job cries out. We catch a fascinating insight into Job's mindset. He says, "Leave me alone, God. Life is useless and meaningless. Death is but darkness from which there is no return, but at least death is better than suffering. I would rather go into the darkness and nothingness of death than to continue living in pain." At this point in his spiritual journey, Job does not believe in an afterlife. Many liberal Bible scholars read this passage and mistakenly conclude that Job and other Old Testament people had no conception of or belief in the afterlife. That's not true. There are references to heaven throughout the Old Testament. Though Job does not believe in heaven and the resurrection while he's in the throes of his affliction, there comes a time later in this discourse when Job says, "I know that my Redeemer lives and that in the end he will stand upon the earth, and after my skin has been destroyed, yet in my flesh I will see God. I myself will see him with my own eyes and not another. How my heart yearns within me." And that's from Job chapter 19, verses 25 and 27. We're not there yet, but he does come around, and that's good to know at this point. Other Old Testament passages reflect the same assurance of life after death in the presence of the Lord. For example, David closes the beloved 23rd Psalms with the words, "I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever." The phrase house of the Lord does not refer to the temple or tabernacle or places of worship, but to God's eternal dwelling place. And in Psalm 133:3, the psalmist David tells us that God bestows his blessings to us, even life evermore. I'm going to have to pause for a second. My voice is going. I know I'm reading fast, but there's a lot to read, and I don't want to make the video any longer than it has to be. But if you want to, you can go into the settings, in the bottom of the video, probably about right there, and slow it down. You can go in there and speed them up. Well, you can also slow them down. So if you want to listen to it slower, you can go ahead and do that. I just realized that I really am reading pretty fast. In Job 11, Zophar the Naamathite steps forward. He is the man I call Zophar the Zealous. He opens with a scorching rebuke of what he sees as Job's sinful folly. You can almost see Zophar shaking his fist in Job's face. He accuses Job of worldliness, foolishness, mockery, and self-righteous arrogance. He says that Job's punishment is richly deserved. How would you like to have Zophar as your friend and comforter? This man goes on to contrast God's wisdom against the supposed ignorance of Job. Zophar is piling on many harsh and heavy words to express what should be a simple concept. Job, you're stupid and deceitful, and God knows it. Your chances of gaining wisdom and finding relief from God's judgment are exactly zero. You can no more gain wisdom than the colt of a wild donkey can be born a human being. Job, you're a hopeless fool. Wow. That's not the kind of friend you want trying to comfort you, is it? Then Zophar appears to contradict himself. Immediately after stating that Job is beyond hope of repentance and redemption, Zophar appeals to Job to repent and be redeemed. Zophar displays no more compassion than the previous two comforters. These three men do nothing but compound Job's suffering. They analyze his affliction in cold analytical terms. They approach Job's problems from a purely theological point of view. That's the difference between theology and the experience of a man taught by the Spirit. Theology can be very clear and right, but it's all in the head. When you deal with the pain of a human life, you must add a deeper dimension, a dimension of compassion and Christ-like empathy. You must authentically love the afflicted person. Christ-like love opens the door of the human soul to receive the light of God's Spirit. Paul expressed this same principle when he wrote, Rejoice with those who rejoice and mourn with those who mourn in Romans 12:15. And here are a few questions to think about. Job is concerned that God will eventually discover that Job cannot be found. If God keeps up the pressure, what does this tell us about Job's view of God? Psychologists sometimes affirm that letting deep feelings spill out is emotionally healthy. But is it spiritually healthy? Explain why or why not. Do you think God gets angry when we speak to him so negatively? Explain your answer. Job believes in God, but he cannot believe God is for him. What would Job's suffering be like without any belief in God? I honestly cannot imagine how difficult it would be to go through suffering, even less suffering than Job's going through, without trust that God's there for you and that he, is there to lift you up and hold you. Just a little insert there, my 2 cents worth. Okay. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do, but that's always the case usually at this point. I am going to put this in the hour of trial. That's the song I'm going to put on here. And let's go ahead and do that, and then we can start thinking about this other stuff, because the glue can be drying. I've got some stencils that I have not used. Whispering Hope. I'm going to say that. Okay. Anyway, let's put this on first. I make these videos the day before I actually put them up, so when you see this, I'm sure I'm going to be just fine. But today's been kind of a hard day. I haven't felt great today. And so right now I'm kind of not sure what to say. It was easy to read. It's not easy to think of what to say at this point. But anyway. Let's go ahead and... Uh-oh. Okay. Sometimes it's hard to see if you've really got glue everywhere. Alrighty. I'm gonna do it this way. Maybe I can center it better this way. Okay. That was just the perfect size, wasn't it? If it had been much bigger, it wouldn't have fit on there. Oops. Alrighty. And if this happens to be the first video that you've watched of mine, or at least of this series, I do have a playlist, and there are several videos in there already, so you can go back and watch this study from the beginning if you want to. You might also not know, but I'm giving these little art cards away, postcards. I'm doing the index card a day, and I decided when I did these studies that I'm going to give these away separate from the rest of them, but I'm giving all of my index cards that I do in June and July away. I had somebody watching, and I haven't got back to the comments yet, but I had somebody who said, I thought it was just the month of June, but iCads is a 61-day project. It goes through the whole month of June and July. Okay, I've got some stencils. I've got this one, which I thought might just be fun to put in some background, but I think I've decided not to do that because I got this one out before I got these. But I think I want to use one of these flowers. I'm not sure which one. And these leaves, I'm not sure which one of these either. Let's see if any of them look like they belong more like these. I think I'm going to go with those two. But I'm also going to do this one. And I'm not sure what these are, but the only flowers I know that grow exactly like that are a purple kind of little hyacinth thing. But I'm going to do this with white on these so that it can look like kind of like baby's breath growing in there. And I'm going to do the leaves first. I'll probably do, a set here and maybe a set like that. Do them both ways in a pale color, and then we'll put this on top in darker colors. We may actually do this in a pale color and this, and then add this on top. And just hope it doesn't turn out to be too busy. Now I do want, like I said, a paler green, and I don't know whether I can get a pale green out of these, or if I could just make myself be light-handed. I'm not good at being light-handed with when I'm doing art. I tend to overpaint, overglue, over everything. So we'll see if I can do it. Okay, come on. There we go. You've got to pull out a little bit before you lift up, and I always forget that until I have gone nuts with it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and edge this with this, and I think this is the darkest green I have. It's also the newest of these pads, and so it's really juicy. So this is probably the ink I'm going to use in the leaves part of the flower. So that's why I'm going ahead and doing it on the edges. So we'll set that one aside for now. These I want to, oh, that's really inky, really inky. Let me get my, I'm really good at getting ink all over myself, so. Okay. I want to just, and this is the white, and it's okay. We'll see how, good grief. We'll see how it works. I've got it all over me already, see? And all I did was edge the paper. Okay. So let's try this one and see what kind of color we get if we go kind of light with it. So that's that. I like that green. That's really pretty. Let's try this one. This one's a little bit more of a bluer green. Yeah, I don't like that one. Okay. I mean, I like it, but not for this project. So let me put that back up. Well, I'm just making messes everywhere today. Okay. Let's try again here. Okay, this one comes out too dark also, so I'm going to put these up, and I'm going to use this one and this one and this one. And let's see, for the flowers, whoops. Oh yeah, these are the ones I decided against. I was going, why do I have both flowers? I know I don't want both flowers. Okay. I think I'm going to use something really bright. I have red geranium. I have mulberry. I'm not going to use blue. I have orange. I don't think I want that. Oh. Okay. I really think I want yellow. Okay, let me... This is not the best storage system. It's just what I have. Okay. The one I really liked, I don't have space for, and it was causing problems. Oh, maybe I was going to do these. You know, I was going to do these leaves, but I think I'm going to do those. Okay, see, changed my mind already. Okay. Let's go ahead and start out with this, and we'll just see how it goes. I hope y'all are having a nice weekend. Everything's going well for you. I'm trying not to get too heavy-handed with it, but I do want it to show up. It's like a delicate balance, and I'm not that great at delicate balances. Let's see how that goes. Okay, that might actually even be lighter than I really... Let's see, do we want to do it from this direction? No. I may wish I had done it a little darker, actually. But I guess I can go back and do it again if I decide I want to. Okay, I think I am going to try to put this back on here and see if I can make it a little bit darker, especially down here where it doesn't really show much at all. I hope I have a re-inker for this one. I'm not sure I do. Okay. That's what I'm going to do with that. And with this one, I'm tempted to just add just the little flowers into these. I'm not sure if that will... I don't know that those flowers will actually even show up if I use the white, because it's not really strong. Let me get this. Where'd I put that piece of paper? Oh, right here. Yeah. No, it's not even showing up. Okay, we're definitely not going to do that. So we're going to skip this, even though that was, I kind of wanted to do that. Okay. So let's just put this one in here. Okay. I may change my mind about the flower color because I do want whatever I put in here to completely cover up whatever leaves it's over on top of. So, I'm going to have to rethink that. I don't need this anymore. Oh. Okay. Let's do the leaves first, and we'll think about it. I think it was this one. No, that one maybe. I don't know. Yeah. No, I don't think I actually used one of these for this one. So let me see. Oh yeah, see, it is different. Okay. So let's just do the leaves here. Okay. Yeah, that shows up pretty good. Alrighty. And let's see. Maybe I won't get it all over myself if I clean it off a little bit. Okay. Now I need a color for the... I may end up... I'm going to go ahead and try the yellow. And if I don't like it, I can put something over the top of it. Or we can have more flowers or whatever. Actually, I think I might want more flowers. Let's go ahead and put the leaves down. Yeah, let's do that. Yep. Why not? I've changed everything else. I can change that too. Okay. And then let's come over here and do it up like this. And when we put the flowers on, we may be in trouble. I wasn't thinking about what that might be like. Okay. So let's go ahead and start with this one. And I think this is this. Okay. Let's do this one. No. Where is it here? Okay. Like I said, I may go back over these with something else. See, that one right there is really on a leaf, and okay. It's hard to get them exactly. This one's really giving me trouble. The other ones were pretty easy, but well, we're going to just go with that and let it be good enough. And like I said, at least one of these I'll probably go back over with red just to make it look different. Yeah, I'm definitely going to go back over them with a different color. So let me dry that first because I don't want it to, maybe that will help it cover up the other. Okay, I dried it a little bit, and I'm going to use red geranium and monarch orange. I think both of those are very bold, and I think they will end up covering this up. I think we will see. Here's no, that's the okay. I'm gonna have to get a new one because I'm not sure if I have an orange one. Let's do red first, and we're gonna do the red ones just right here in the. Oh, yeah. Let's see if we can clean this off a little bit. Okay. You can still see the music under it, and you can still see the leaves under it, but I think it looks a little bit better. We'll see when we take this off. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that looks much better. I think I'm just going to do them all that way. I'm just going to do them all that way. Who needs orange when we can do red? Oh, yes. I'm liking it. I'm liking it. Alrighty, one more. No. Yep. Okay. There we go. Uh-oh. You only have to move it a tiny little bit and you end up with a shadow instead of course, I guess that would be okay. All right, I think that's very pretty. I like it. But I don't know, it seems a little too systematic. Let's see if we can add some more right down here maybe. I don't know. I may be doing way too much when I do that. The green is definitely going to show through this, but we're just going to persevere and hope for the best. I didn't have the yellow under it, so it's going to be a different color. I didn't think about that. That's okay. Let's get this green back out. If I can hold this still. And there we go. You know what? We're going to just go ahead and add in another one right here and make a whole garden. And it may be overkill, but once you do that, then this spot over here looked empty. So I hope y'all like this one. If you like it and you want to win it, just comment below. I will do winners from each stream. Okay, you know what I think I want? I need some kind of grass down here. I'm trying to think of how to do that. Okay, I'm going to think about that a minute. Be right back. All right, I might regret it, but I think what I'm going to do is just put this here and just go across it and kind of fill in down here just with these leaves. And see, what color do we want them to be? Trying to remember. I think this one. I don't know for sure. Is that this one? Yeah, I think so. I'm not positive, but I think so. Okay, let's start right here. Oh, that's helping a lot. Okay, let's go ahead and we're just going to throw a bunch of them in here because it's a garden. There's lots of stuff growing. Let's do a little bit more right here. Okay, I'm much happier with that. I hope you like it. And I'm going to say goodbye for today. God bless you. I love you. I hope this study is blessing you like it is me. Bye-bye.